Steve here with Table Rock Tea Company. As promised in the intro of this channel, this is not just a channel about tea farming, it's also a channel about business and entrepreneurialism, and so I'll throw some things in there every once in a while regarding that. Some of you know that I am working on another book. This was hopefully going to come out by the end of this year or early 2023, and it's called All In Again. Unsolicited Advice from a Serial Entrepreneur. That's me. So every once in a while, as I'm doing this final editing stage, I'll come across a section that I feel for some reason someone needs to hear at this particular time. And so I'm going to try something a little new. What I'll do is I'll read it, kind of like narrating, a book on tape or whatever. I'll also put the transcript in the description below or in the Facebook comment or description section, and that way you can go back and read it. You can feel free to quote me on this. Obviously, anything that I'm putting in writing is fair game, so it's public knowledge, so to speak. And so, yes, I'll stand by those words, and hopefully, again, you'll learn something from it, and it'll help you out on your business journey. So this one is called Making a Living, Not a Killing. How much is too much? It all comes down to contentment. If we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. That's a quote from 1 Timothy 6:8. But how did that statement strike you? Are you at peace with it, or does it make you squirm? As an entrepreneur, I'll admit that I've squirmed over this verse more than once. The assertion doesn't always sit well with me, and yet I can say with absolute certainty that it truly is the best way to live. Having traveled to nearly 40 countries, I have literally worked with princes and with paupers. In my observation, the happiest people are those who make enough income to meet their needs and a few of their wants. Anything above that, and you enter the rat race. Anything below, and you're drowning. I once read a study about something called the happiness quotient. Basically, it showed that our perceived happiness plateaus at a certain income level. At the time of this writing, that's about $75,000 total for a family of 4 living in the United States. Anything made above that happiness quotient didn't add any appreciable value to one's situation. Your car might be a little nicer, but not noticeably. Your vacations might be a bit more extravagant, but not dramatically. In essence, the extra just becomes an ever-growing monument to your own dissatisfied emptiness. Contentment is the underlying philosophy of this section, but it's not the point of it. The point is to consider how we structure our pricing for goods and services in light of that underlying philosophy. I'll never understand why certain things cost so much while others cost so little. Yes, I understand the principles of supply and demand. Yes, I understand perceived value. I guess what it boils down to is my simultaneous disdain and affinity for greed. Just like you, I want to make money and have nice things. But do I really need to charge you $16 for a widget that cost me 16 cents to make? Is an attorney really worth $350 an hour? Or a CEO worth $5 million a year? Or an athlete worth $125 million? Like it or not, the answer is no. But we pay these ridiculous prices, and then we wonder while we complain about inflation. The irony is not lost on us, but are we willing to do anything about it? Think back to a time when you were pleasantly surprised by what you were charged for goods or services. You felt it was a fair price. You didn't get ripped off, and you didn't scalp the other guy. Isn't there something refreshing in the equity of such a transaction? It just feels right. I don't know about you, but I want to build the kind of business where everyone walks away from every encounter feeling like it was a win-win without anyone having to suffer or feel guilty to make that happen. Pricing individual items is one part of the equation, but ambition of scale is another. How big does your company really need to be? Do Do you really need to annihilate all competitors or take over the world? Probably not. If you truly want to be a great company, start looking at growth in terms of how content you can make life for all of your employees, from the CEO to the janitor. You might just find that those extra profits are best put into better benefits and higher wages than into expansion or into your own pocket. Take an honest look and you'll find that there's a certain equilibrium to your company's size beyond which would only create discontentment. Your business has a happiness quotient too. Granted, there are some businesses that need to be bigger for economy of scale to function properly, but after a certain point, that becomes the exception rather than the rule. If you aren't convinced that you don't need to make a killing to make a living, let me give you one final appeal. That opening verse, it goes on to say, "Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." How true. How very, very true. So what's the takeaway then? Price your goods and services fairly, and seriously consider how big your company needs to be. We need to make a living, but we don't need to kill anyone else to do it. So that's kind of again, a little snippet of what this book is all about. These are little essays that are 2 to 3 pages long, maybe even a little bit less than that from time to time. The things picked up over the years that I hope help you as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, as an employer, as an employee, and hopefully it'll just make everybody's life a little bit better. So I hope you got something from that. If you did, please leave comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned to see what else is brewing here at Table Rock Tea Company.